Welcome to the Great Canadian Leadership Podcast, proudly brought to you by the Great Canadian Training and Consulting Company. Thank you for joining us today in our search for what makes a great communicator. I'm your host, Joel Silverstone, and every episode we'll be speaking with leaders and experts on how they were able to use their communication skills to inspire, create trust, collaboration, and influence others all in a respectful manner. How did they do it? What did they do to get better? How did they adapt? Where did they fail? Listeners and viewers, if you are looking to improve your communication skills and take those steps to being the next great leader in business, you're in the right place. Enjoy the podcast. How do you manage up? This is a popular question that we get in our trainings at the Great Canadian Training and Consulting Company. How do you give feedback or change a behavior to someone that is an authority or someone that you have to report directly to without jeopardizing your career, your job, their relationship? Well, in this episode, we've got Melanie Ziltener, and she is sharing an insightful example on how she was able to use communication skills and processes that made her leader feel reassured, engaged, and involved. Melanie Ziltener is the owner of Tripod Business Services since 2017, which is a boutique virtual assistance agency that specializes in content writing and creation. And before that, Mel had over 15 years of experience assisting professionals from small companies to government agencies. Now, managing up can be intimidating. Well, this episode is going to help you to have clarity on the mindset, the steps you can take, and the communication skills needed to build trust and collaboration in your organization. Let's meet Melanie Ziltener. We are talking about managing upwards. Mel, thank you so much for being a guest on the Great Canadian Leadership Podcast.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Well, this is an exciting topic to talk about because we've been talking with leaders about how they're inspiring others, and now we're looking from the other point of view. How does one, and this is such a good topic because so many of our listeners are in this situation, even if you are a leader, sometimes you're still reporting to someone. How do you manage upwards? Meaning, how are you able to have an effect on someone you have to report to who might be deemed as maybe having a higher authority? And how do you change their behavior or change an outcome? So this was an interesting topic that you brought to my attention, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are on managing upwards. What does that mean to you, and how you came about this idea that I'm managing upwards? That's what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I think it was, earlier in my career, I worked for somebody who was not open to suggestions, and it created a conflict with us.
Right.
And I could see that there was a change that needed to be made, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a really interesting process to learn how to do that because I think at first I handled it wrong.
Okay.
Um, so I did
what's
that
what's
first.
the what's the word? What's the word? Wrong. Okay.
It was wrong. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
there's no way to sugarcoat it. But I think
Mm-hmm.
I went in with with my opinions, to
Right.
give some background on it, where I was working at the time. They weren't putting resources into administrative support, so I was finding that the workload was impossible. I was working for five different lawyers, two clerks. It was a very busy period, a lot of transition, and it was just it wasn't going well. And I
Right.
think the way that I approached it was that I came in and, I think this isn't working, my opinion is blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
so doing it that way, it's just my opinion versus somebody else's opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it didn't have weight
It
behind it.
right, and didn't get the response you were hoping for.
Yeah. And so, kind of taking a step back and being like, okay, I still need more support. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
just as busy.
Right.
I kind of went in again a little more prepared. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of said, okay, this is what's going on.
Right.
These are the facts. This is what we're dealing with here. So going in with something a little bit more concrete,
Mm-hmm.
that it's not my opinion versus your opinion. This is the reality.
And that's a great observation that you realize that it's hard to dispute facts.
hmm
And when there's an opinion, It could be for someone who's maybe higher up or maybe an authority figure higher than you. It could feel like maybe you're undermining them because
Yeah.
they're trying to find the truth in it. But when you give facts, it leads to more like, okay, this is nothing. It's not a personal attack.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's something that I had to learn, was
Hmm.
that the person that I was working for had very high expectations, and I
Hmm.
wasn't meeting them because I couldn't, but I was taking that very personally. You know what I
Uh,
mean? That
right.
that this was affecting my values somehow. And it just tied very emotionally to me, where I had to not take it personally. You know what I mean? It wasn't personal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, well, that's so this is already two great things here we got, which is come prepared with facts
Hmm.
versus coming in with maybe a reaction mode with opinions because that could undermine them or could make the other person feel defensive. So you're not going to get the results you're looking for, and then really, which is probably one of the hardest things to do, Mel. You're saying, which is
Yeah.
not take it personally.
Yeah. No, and it was hard because it felt personal because it was me
Yeah,
in this role. It's hard to
right.
separate the two, you know?
The stakes are high for you, but maybe not so
Mm,
high for that person that you're trying to change. But you're trying
right.
to create this change because it will make you happier. It'll make them happier. They don't realize it quite yet. It'll make everybody a bit more efficient and a bit more productive, which is really the goal. What we all want within our organization. We want to be happier, more efficient, more productive.
Exactly.
So all right, so you're not taking it personally. You
Mhm.
come in prepared. You've got the facts. How is this received then?
It was received better. And it
Hmm.
was another thing that I talked about too, was it's not just about, okay, this is going to make my life easier. It's this is really good for you, right? So kind
Right.
of trying to play to their point of view of, how is this decision or how is this change going to be a great thing for you, was helpful, because it's easier to agree with something that's going to benefit you, right?
It's a mutual
Yeah.
purpose. This is what I'm going to get out of this, and this is what you're going to get it, and
Yeah.
this is what probably the team and the organization and this department is going
Yeah.
to get out of this. So absolutely, and so it sounds like also you really started thinking about the other person. So you weren't just thinking
Hmm.
about what your needs were, but you started thinking about the root cause or who is this person? What are they trying to accomplish here?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And I think it's something I wish I did better at the time, was try and tap into more of that empathy, because I was
Hmm.
initially looking at it just from my point of view, and you're under stress and there's so much going on, but like for the person that I was reporting to, she was newer to the organization. It was a much different culture than what she was used to. You know, she had been a partner at a large firm before. Now in this organization, it
Right.
was a small department in a large organization. Um, I think she was trying to find her footing in a lot of areas. So for me to come in and be like, "Hey, you need to spend money," maybe not the
Right.
time, when you're still kind of finding that way. Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone who's in a new position coming into a leadership role, they want to they're trying to figure out, especially when, like you said, this person was in a different position, a higher up position, maybe the big fish in that area, and all of a sudden coming and be part of a huge organization.
Yeah. Mm.
The roles changing. They're trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
So definitely having that empathy for where they are at, and and we talked about this in previous podcast, meeting them where they're at. And it sounds like you're not going for the huge win. You're not trying to
No.
completely change everything.
No, no, no. And that, sorry, I feel like I cut you off there. It was
No,
really,
no, that's good.
if I could, make a small win, if I could just move it a
Yeah,
little bit, then that's fine.
that's
That's a
right.
win. A win is a win, you know?
A- And I think that's an important part in managing upwards,
Mhm.
which is we don't want to think about someone who has gotten to where they're at and be able to make a huge complete change. But if we can get that 10 to 20%
Yeah.
change in a behavior or in a result, then that's already huge. And we're taking those small steps. And I think you probably created even more mutual respect for each other as well.
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah.
I think so. I think if someone's willing to go, okay, I could see that there's some changes here.
Yeah.
It's you're creating some, you must have felt better about having respect for yourself,
Yeah.
and you're showing respect for the other person, and then this person now it's reciprocal. This
Hmm.
person now
Well, and
shows respect.
I think it moved our relationship forward in the sense that when we made the little change and everything started working out better, it kind of gave some, I don't know, some foundation for like the next time I
Yeah,
wanted to make a little change. You have that kind of,
right.
remember last time Mel said this? Okay, it builds trust.
It
Yeah.
does. And now instead of sort of managing upwards, maybe you can even look at you as a peer, a colleague, versus someone who's a direct report
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
All right, this is great. Let's talk about your, if you're ready, we're going to talk about your failure
Uh,
ta-da moment. But before we do that, we're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about your failure ta-da
all right.
moment.
Hi, I'm Joy Newhold, and we'll be right back to our interview. When I started the Great Canadian Training and Consulting Company in 2002, I never would have imagined that one day we would have a podcast. So first, I want to thank you for listening and share some really exciting information about our organization with you. For years, we have made our live instructor-led software and soft skills training, consulting, and coaching services customizable to meet the unique needs of each client and committed ourselves to a high quality of customer service. This combined to make the learning experience better for the participants and the planning process easier for the organizer. We love helping our clients so much. We also develop many additional free resources to help you along the way, and this podcast is just one of them. At greatcanadiantraining.ca, you will find our free monthly webinars, blog articles, and free downloads covering everything from building better dashboards in Excel to navigating difficult conversations and everything in between. So make sure to join us at greatcanadiantraining.ca. But for now, I better let you get back to the podcast. Please enjoy the rest of the interview.
All right, welcome back. We're speaking with Mel about managing
Mhm.
upwards, and now we're going to go into, and if you're ready, Mel, here we go. It's time for failure. Ta-da!
Which
And so
one?
this is that well, this is here we go. This is that moment where it wasn't so much that it was a failure. It might have felt like that at the time, but it's really been a learning experience about how to change your communication
Yeah.
style. So, do you have one top of mind that you feel comfortable to share
Sure.
with us?
Yeah. I was thinking about just sometimes being at the table with people when you're the person with the least authority. You're not the decision maker. There's, decades more experience than you. I know for myself, I've struggled to speak up when I feel like I might have a good
Mm,
idea or a different perspective or I don't know, something to share. And so that's my failure. But ta-da! I have been challenging myself to to
mm-hmm.
embrace those opportunities and to kind of get over
Right,
myself that even though I don't have that same level experience, I do have my experience, and that is a perspective worth
right.
sharing. And so, not that
Yeah.
not that I always get listened to or like the ideas don't always get adopted, but when I do, it's really rewarding, and it's a good feeling.
From ta-da to
Ah.
aha. Very good. Well, that is so good, Mel, because I think, and it ties in a lot with
Hmm.
managing upwards, which is, should I share my perspective? And as you said, if you hold on to it for too long, you might have missed that moment, and then it happens, and then you realize, oh, I should have spoke up because I could have saved this or
Yeah.
saved that. Uh, Most importantly, what you're saying is bringing in a different perspective. Maybe you don't have the authority or the experience that you're sharing with, but it's bringing a different perspective, and that's always appreciated because it does. It's let's have big
Hmm.
ideas before we narrow it down. So that's the advantage of speaking up is here's a thought,
Let's see.
I put it out there, and congratulations to you for having the confidence and the courage to put it out there, and we encourage you to continue to put that
Ah, thanks, Joe.
perspective out there. Mal, it has been a pleasure to talk about managing upwards. Some great tips, which we're going to hear in a bit in our 3 stars and our next step. Mel, if we want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, what is the best way to
The best
reach
way
out to
is
you,
on
Mel?
Instagram, and so it's mel dot the word nerd.
Mel dot
Yes.
the word
Yeah.
nerd at Instagram. Okay, we'll follow your adventures and your journeys there. Mel, thank you so much for being a guest on the Great Canadian
Thanks.
Leadership Podcast. And now it's time for our 3 stars, nos 3 étoiles. These are the 3 takeaways from today's episode that you can start to put into practice. Number 1, opinions versus facts. Facts are not personal. If you don't want your leader to feel defensive and unclear, keep it to facts. Those are indisputable. Number 2, empathy. What's going on for them? If you are managing up, it's great that you have needs and wants. So does that leader. Just like we heard in today's episode, our leader was new to this role and had new responsibilities. So understanding what's going on for them is going to help you manage up. Number 3, small wins are big gains. Don't think of it as a sprint when you're trying to manage up. Think of those small steps that you can take to create that change. So, what's the next step? Not sure how to apply these 3 stars in business or in life? Try this in the next few days. Speak up. As we heard from Mel today, the value in speaking up is sharing your perspective. Worst case scenario, the idea is not implemented. Best case scenario, your idea is validated. Enjoy. Thank you for joining us in our search for what makes a great communicator. If you enjoyed the show, then please leave a rating or review. Even better, subscribe to the Great Canadian Leadership Podcast and make sure you don't miss another episode. Let's stay connected. Follow us on Twitter or Instagram at GCT_Compues. And if you'd like more information, free resources, or class schedules on everything from software to soft skills training, consulting, or coaching, then go on over to greatcanadiantraining.ca. Thank you, and we will see you next episode.